Reshef of Destruction. If you used to play Yu-Gi-Oh games as a kid, there's a good chance that you've heard of this game. And if you played it, a very good chance that you have some pretty negative memories of it. On the surface, Reshef is really cool conceptually. A Yu-Gi-Oh game that in many ways is more of a puzzle game than a card game. The game demands that you constantly be rebuilding your deck to fine-tune it for each individual boss duel, and coming up with strategies to get through can be a really rewarding feeling. Reshef has some great ways of increasing the difficulty of the game to really make you think hard about how to progress. The problem then? It has too many. The sheer number of things the developers do to artificially increase the difficulty of this game is staggering. But despite all of the hurdles thrown at us, I persevered and beat the game on stream without cheating or using passcodes, something that most of the chatters that I talked to during the playthrough never did. Before we get into the difficulty, let me explain the concept of the game. You're a standard protagonist who's friends with Yugi and Joey. The Millennium items have disappeared, so you have to travel the world to recover them, along the way restoring the Egyptian god cards which have turned to stone so that you can beat the big bad of the game, Reshef of Destruction, who is, some sorta dark evil god thing, I guess? I don't think it's ever actually really explained. Anyway, Reshef somehow possessed Pegasus to unseal him and unleash him upon the world to wreak havoc and bring the end times, or something. Also, Pegasus decided that he's not Pegasus anymore, he's Sol Shevalsky. The name doesn't actually seem to have any meaning to anybody in the game, and it is confirmed very clearly that it is actually Pegasus, so I'm not really sure what they were going for there. But anyway, on to the mechanics. If you've played old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy games, you're probably familiar with the type system. Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards have a type in the top right of the card. Generally, these types don't really matter too much in the actual game, but in the early Game Boy games they matter a lot. Each type has a type that they are weak to and one that they are strong against. So, water beats fire, which beats forest, which beats wind, which beats earth, etc., etc. If two monsters of opposing types battle, the stronger type monster will always win. For a particularly ridiculous example, Blue Eyes White Dragon, as a light-type monster, will lose to Karibo, a shadow-type monster, despite having 10 times its attack and defense points. The rest of the game is pretty much normal, with the exception that a lot of the cards don't really work exactly how they work in the real game. We'll get into some specific examples of that when they become relevant, though. So, why is this game so hard? Well, to start, you can only restore life points with cards or at your house. Yeah, so that means if you take 6,000 life points of damage on a fight, you'll enter the next one with a measly 2,000 life points. It's a pretty weird design choice. Not only that, but later in the game, you'll be thrown into situations where you have to win, sometimes up to 5 consecutive duels to advance, and if you go heal, you have to start over. If you go above 8,000, your life points will just reset to 8,000 after the duel, so you can't cheese the game by farming Tristan with a healing deck in order to get up to 69,000 life points. There are a couple of AI quirks that make the game harder too, like the AI always knowing which of your monsters is strongest, even if they're face down. So they'll always target your best monster with a change of heart, for example, even if they don't know what your monsters are. They don't actually know what the monster is, though, so one of the major ways to beat bosses is by baiting them into type-favorable matchups for you to take out their stronger monsters. Wait, hold on, what's that? You thought you could just build a good deck so that these issues aren't issues? You thought wrong. By far the two worst parts of this game come from deck capacity and duelist level. This is essentially the game's level-up system. Duelist level is a bit simpler, so we'll start there. Each card has a cost. If your duelist level isn't equal to or greater than the cost of a card, then you can't use it. Sorry. For example, Swords of Revealing Light is a 300 cost card, so you need to be duelist level 300 to use it. Cost is also relevant for deck capacity. Your deck has a cumulative cost limit to it, so that same Swords of Revealing Light would take up 300 of your deck capacity. You start the game with about 1600 deck capacity, and you increase both your capacity and level by dueling. You gain 1 level for every 3 capacity you gain, and you gain 1 capacity per duel, 3 for storyline duels, so usually 1. Your duelist level starts at 72, so that's about 6,000 duels to even unlock Swords of Revealing Light. You're beginning to see the issue now, aren't you? But anyway, let's get into the game. The early game was easy enough. After Ishizu gave us our opening exposition and asked us to fetch the first Millennium item, we did so without much trouble. I decided to farm Joey and Yugi for a while afterwards because I did know how grindy the game was. Basically, I decided to try to spread out my grinding as much as possible for my own personal sanity. I beefed up my deck with a couple stronger monsters like a Flame Swordsman and an M-Warrior. Most of our starting monsters were in the 500 to 700 attack range, so I decided I wanted to use my limited capacity to have 1 or 2 powerhouse monsters, and M-Warrior's 1000 attack fit the bill. We headed over to the pier and tried to smack Jean-Claude around a bit before making our way to the second Millennium item. Unfortunately for me, he has a wealth of wind monsters, which type counter my M-Warrior, and a bunch of light types, which counter my only level 7 plus monster, Beast of Talwar, as well as a couple of boosting cards like Black Pendant. Even though I'd done a fair bit of grinding, this was already a first small wall. It turned out that I'd just gotten a little unlucky though, and after a bit of grinding, we beat him second try. I was allowed to duel Mai afterwards, but that proved to be a terrible idea, and she spanked me hard enough that I decided to put it on the back burner for now. Oh god, oh fuck. No, I can't. Oh shit, I'm not ready for this fight. Oh god, oh Jesus Christ. Oh Lord have mercy. What have I done? What have I done? I am not ready to fight Mai. Fuck. And now I have to go back and farm Exodia pieces. What have I done? I went to grind a bit more and picked up a Swamp Battle Guard from Joey. For reference, our starting tribute monsters are all 1600 or 1700 attack, so being able to have an 1800 attack monster for a single tribute was a nice little improvement, especially since I already had the Flame Swordsman. I headed back to the pier to fight the boss guarding the second Millennium item. Most of our deck was still 700 attack monsters, but this guy had 900s. Thankfully though, I drew a pretty amazing starting hand and continued to draw well for the win. This unlocked Slifer the Sky Dragon. It's borderline impossible to get into a position where you can tribute 3 monsters at this point in the game, but the God cards have a little added bonus. They cost 0 towards deck capacity. That allowed me to fit a huge improvement into my deck, Leopard Girl. Leopard Girl is a 1950 attack single tribute forest monster that was a super nice upgrade on my 1700 Peacock. Finally, I added Doron to the deck. Doron is a 900 attack water monster that has the effect that allows me to clone it if there's space on the board, making it an incredible turn 1 play to get tribute summons rolling. With those additions, I headed off to Italy for the third Millennium item. Against Bones, I went first, and had Doron in my hand, so I was basically able to steamroll him off the momentum generated from that one card. Going into the third Millennium item Guardian boss, I got absolutely owned. Most of this guy's non-tribute monsters are in the 900 to 1000 range. I identified that he had a lot of earth types, so a wind-heavy deck would have been great, but I was also severely lacking in wind options, so it was back to the grind. The other problem was that most of the wind options were around 600 or 700 attack, which, while it might not sound like a lot, was very expensive for our existing deck capacity. Despite the disadvantageous outlook, I figured I could get the duel if I tried it a few times and lucked into a good hand. Eventually, I picked up a Genin with 900 defense, got lucky that he didn't pull any of his 1000 attack monsters, just long enough for me to play our brand new Leopard Girl, which was more than enough to carry me to victory. Realizing that I'd won off of luck though, I figured it was time to really grind for a bit. I went back to every explored area fighting everyone I was allowed to, and battled Joey and Yugi a bunch as well. I did also manage to wall Mai's Wind-Heavy deck with a single Forest-type monster though, so that was fun. In the midst of this grind, I finally played Slifer for the first time, which is when I was reminded about this little fun mechanic. Oh god. It's gonna redo it. Oh god, this is... Okay, this is actually pretty annoying. This is actually really fucking annoying. Who coded it like this? Off to China to fight Para and Dox. Not to be confused with Paradox, who is also a character in this game. Yeah, that's not confusing at all. This is where most of the boss fights start being played on the Yami field as opposed to the normal field. This gives a boost to Magician and Spellcaster type monsters, and the opposing decks are usually built with that in mind, giving them yet another advantage. Up until that point, I'd been using two specific cards to gain momentum: Eat Kaboon and Beckon to Darkness. Eat Kaboon is a trap that activates whenever an opposing monster with 1,000 or less attack points attacks, removing it from play, while Beckon to Darkness is a spell card that for some reason only has a cost of 15, despite removing your opponent's strongest monster from the field. With our opponent's monsters now almost exclusively eclipsing the 1,000 attack mark though, Eat Kaboon was becoming useless as one of my main methods of gaining tempo. A new card that I'd added though, Hourglass of Life, started to make a huge difference. The flip effect of Hourglass of Life is that for a cost of 1,000 life points, I can increase the attack and defense of all of my monsters by 500. So with Hourglass of Life, a new regular win condition emerged. Get a tribute monster out with some combination of traps, Doran's ability, and type advantages, and pump it up with Hourglass of Life to make it stronger than any single tribute monster my opponent can play. In the case of the Para-Duel, this was Leogan, a 1750 attack Earth monster. I was able to use Doran's ability to have just enough board presence to summon Leogan in defense mode, baiting his huge electric type Sanga into a bad type advantage and sweeping with the assistance of the Hourglass. The duels at this point were getting a lot tougher, but I was still finding my way through them relatively quickly. But then, immediately after a cutscene, I had to duel him again, and his deck was significantly stronger. He opened with a 1200 attack point Giant Panda for reference, but I happened to have the perfect starting hand with Doran, Flame Swordsman, and Hourglass of Life, so I was basically just able to repeat the strategy we used in the first fight for another pretty quick victory. I ran home to heal before the 4th Millennium Item Guardian, and things looked great with another Doran opener, into a Forest Tribute monster, Peacock, which immediately went down to a Fire type. From there I just kinda died. After a second try, where he stepped on me like a high-end dominatrix, I decided to spend some time grinding to improve my capacity and hopefully my deck. I realize that I haven't actually explained how tedious the grinding is. The best value for time that you're gonna get is by just dueling Yugi over and over. He's available right at the start of the game, has a pretty weak deck that's mostly comparable to your starting deck, and he gives some pretty solid card rewards that can be used as anti-cards for other fights or just sold for a pretty penny. Fighting the nerd over and over and over again and just destroying his self-image as the king of games does get pretty old pretty quickly though. Mostly it devolved into me just spamming duels while the stream devolved into extremely random unrelated conversations. Imagine financing a dictator. I know, right? I appreciate your contribution to my dictatorship. Where would you buy the Souls of the Damned? Walmart! You get the knockoff off-brand Souls of the Damned at Walmart. I think generally you need to harvest the Souls of the Damned yourself, though. It makes it more authentic for the flavor. Anyways, I did realize after this pretty long grinding session that I'd hit Duelist level 123. At level 121, you unlock monster cards with 1200 attack points, which would be strong enough, generally, to overpower what the next boss was running. Capacity was still a massive issue, but I figured that I could throw one or two in the deck and just grind out a couple of attempts until I had one in my starting hand. I picked up a light-type monster named Goddess with the something. The name is cut off, so I just like to think that it's Goddess with the huge schlong. It still wasn't enough, so I had to grind even more. At this point, we were getting close to 2 hours of grinding. Welcome to Rechef. After a bit more grinding, I figured I had the capability of beating the boss, but it would take a few tries. On the 6th attempt, I finally got the ultimate starting hand. Doran, a tribute card in Swamp Battle Guard, and my brand new Schlong Goddess. A couple of good draws like Beckon to Darkness helped me finally secure the 4th Millennium item. This is the part of the game where you start getting weird side stories between each main story boss. It does a good job lengthening the playtime, but it really just feels like side quests were shoehorned in and forced to be mandatory battles. I think that this was actually the part where I stopped playing as a kid. And I remembered this section being really hard. This is also the first glimpse we get at the weirdest recurring storyline in this game. Kaiba Corp puts on a play, featuring the Big Five, who you might remember as villains during the weird Noah VR arc in the anime. They're actors. They're forced to be actors to humiliate them for betraying the company or something. So they're the villains in this weird Kaiba Man play where a security guard at Kaiba Corp plays the hero, Kaiba Man, who's like not supposed to be Kaiba, but some dude dressed in a Blue Eyes costume. Mokuba's there too, but playing himself / a narrator. It's really weird. Oh, and also Joey believes that the stage show is real life for some reason, because of course he does. So anyway, we have to participate in the play and duel the Jinzo guy of the Big Five, which is the fight that I remembered being super difficult. So anyways, I beat it first try without any problems at all. Yeah, I used to be really bad at video games as a kid. I vividly remember consistently going like 0 and 10 on Warcraft 3 ladder and then making a new account to hide my shame repeatedly. But I was a god at Guitar Hero, so that was neat. Onward to Canada. Rex Raptor is part of a fossil dig here, and also for some reason a Millennium item is in a random cave, so it's travel time. As I mentioned earlier, for a bit of variety, and also because this game is so grind-heavy, I tried to fight every optional duelist, so that's how I got walled by this random guy. Double Eek-Gaboon's not bad. We'll take that, I guess. Oh, that is 40 too strong for me to kill. That's a little annoying. Okay, fine. Oh, for fuck's sake. Am I gonna lose to this guy? I'm gonna lose to this guy. This is going great. I'm just dead again. As the eagle-eyed viewer may have noticed, I had 2 Eek-Gaboons just sitting there awkwardly in one of those clips. This is where it was becoming really, really apparent that those cards were just dead capacity in the deck. I spent so long just alternating between this guy and Yugi to farm more anti-cards. I only had a couple of wind-type monsters available to me, and they pretty much completely wall this guy, but somehow I was just never drawing them. Finally, on the 10th attempt, I got a Doron plus Hourglass combo, and was just able to snowball with board control. Finally, after an hour of pain, I was able to challenge Rex. It went just about how you'd expect, with the scary revelation that he actually doesn't have that many Earth types. So basically, the same fight as before, but minus the Wind-type win condition. So it was back to the grind. Seriously, do not pick up this game unless you are okay with mindlessly battling Yugi over and over and over again. The upside of all of this failing and grinding is that I'd unlocked 20 or so more capacity. I hit up the shop, picked up a second Doron since that bad boy was responsible for a good half of my wins at this point. But this was also where I realized that traps are super undervalued on capacity. Eek-Gaboon only costs 10, but I figured that the better traps would be super expensive. Not so. Bear Trap, which removes anything with a 1500 attack or less, is only 20 capacity. Invisible Wire, which does the same for 2000 attack, costs 50. Acid Trap Hole, which is the same for 3000 attack, costs 70, and Widespread Ruin, which removes any attacking monster, costs 100. Compare those costs to something like Heavy Storm, which clears the entire board, including your side. That costs 200. This was the start of the strategy that would be our main strat for the rest of the run, loading up the deck with as many traps as I could stuff in. For now, though, I settled with a single bear trap since our capacity and money wasn't particularly high. With a second Doron and another bear trap, it was time to try that Rex fight again. We lost pretty badly. And again. On the next try, I started with bear trap. Naturally, Rex had a Trachodon, which was boosted by the field to be just stronger than bear trap's limit, so we lost. Of course he gets boosted to be stronger than the bear trap because of the field bonus. Are you joking, man? Hey, say it with me, everybody. Where are my wind monsters? I decided to try one more time before conceding and going back to the grind. Holy shit, it's a wind monster. Doron's pretty good here. But again, like, I need to actually draw into something to make this stuff useful. And look at the... That will always make me laugh because I'm a child. Alright, I think we're good. I don't think he has any... Like, the only way he can kill Doma is if he plays another Earth monster, and then I just win with my wind. Nice. Yay! We did it, Reddit. I think you can see during that fight just how dead inside this game has started to make me. But we still had the Millennium Item fight. This fight was actually really weird, but a perfect example of why board presence is so important. He started to snowball, but the AI will always summon a tribute monster if they can, so he just gave up board control to summon a level 7 monster, which was food for my Beck into Darkness. After that, my Leopard Girl managed to just sit on the field for a good 10 turns, clearing every defense position monster he played, until he eventually just went down. There was a minor scare when he used Heavy Storm, but he had no cards, and just drew into a tribute summon, so it was fine. Nice to finally get a first try fight again. Next, we're off to the Galapagos Islands, where we meet Mako Tsunami. He thumped me initially, but I loaded up my deck with lightning-type monsters and tried again. There was a funny moment in there, but the Great Wall of Lightning stood strong and got a relatively simple win in the bag, despite board clear shenanigans. Weevil is next, but surprisingly, he has a ton of different types. Bug types don't hold to the forest motif apparently, unfortunately for me. Regardless, a really bad starting hand for him allowed me to get a pretty easy win on the second try. Next up was Millennium Item number 6, which actually isn't one of the Guardians, but the Mimic of Doom! You may remember him as that weird fat guy who claimed that he was Kaiba's ghost in Season 1. He was heavily focused on Dream-type monsters, so I packed in a few fiends, including another 1200 attack monster, Hitatsumi Giant. I also came to another realization that would become a pivotal part of the deck-building strategy going forward. Alright, what I can actually do here, right, is I can run some really shitty Fiend monsters just because they're Fiend monsters. Like, all of these 700 dudes are not gonna do anything for me. This was where I finally started to realize that the best way to build your deck is to essentially build half a deck. Use all of your capacity on 15 to 20 good cards, and then just hope to not draw the trash. What ingenious game design. Regardless, with our brand new deck stacked to the brim with awfully low attack Fiend-type monsters, the Mimic didn't stand a ghost of a chance. He also dropped the Talons of Shuralane, another card that would become a staple in the deck. This bad boy is a 116 cost Dream-type monster with 2100 attack points for a single tribute. The kicker? It gets buffed up to 2700 with the Yami field bonus. That's the field that's used in almost every major boss duel from here on out. Just when I seem to be getting the hang of this capacity thing, Slifer and Ra turned back to stone. As a reminder, the biggest selling point on the God cards at this stage of the game is their 0 deck cost, so this threw a major spanner in the works. Oh, never mind. Slifer just turned to stone again. That fucks my capacity up real bad. Slifer's not even that good a card, so I don't really care about that. It's just that I basically use the God cards to give me more capacity. This is annoying. Wow, the story is getting intense. Reshef is growing exponentially in power. Our main weapons against him, the God cards, have just turned back into stone. What will our characters do? They're gonna go on a really weird, super meaningless side quest, completely ignoring the existential threat, of course. This time, Tristan has disappeared, and everyone believes he's been turned into a robot monkey for some reason. Yeah, I get it, it happened in the show, but in the virtual world, all of these idiots just didn't notice that he left for a couple of hours and jumped to the conclusion that he's now possessing a toy monkey. But wait, there's more. A colony of actual sentient robot monkeys is now living in a tribe on the Galapagos Island, and we have to go duel them. For reasons. How high was Konami during development? The real issue is that for some reason, this is a massive difficulty spike. This monkey has stuff like Raigeki, which wipes all of my monsters out, and non-tribute monsters clocking in at 1400 to 1600 attack points. As a reminder, my strongest non-tribute monsters have 1200 attack. I could only dream of having cards like this in my deck. I had to grind for a good hour before attempting it for the second time. After several attempts, I went in and have both Dorons on top of my Swamp Battle Guard in my starting hand, which is about as good as it gets, and snowballed from there. I'm so glad I was able to luck my way through this entire segment. What's that? What? Oh right, no, I didn't. I have to duel all of the monkeys, not just that one. You know, Tama comes in. I was very scared of Raigeki there, but I think we're just kind of fine. I think we've successfully lucked our way through another fight. Huh, not bad. After taking down all 4 monkeys, which turned out to be progressively weaker each time, but still took a good hour and a half, Tristan showed up. He wasn't a monkey at all. This entire plotline had us wasting what must have been months flying between Japan and Galapagos just to find out that Tristan spent 3 months stuffing his face with food and was fine the whole time. Good thing that there isn't anything more important we have to be worried about. The Neo-Ghouls decided that now would be a great time to take over Domino, which practically speaking just gives us new people to grind on. They still give us a whopping 1 deck capacity per win though, so honestly grinding isn't any better. In fact, since they're a lot stronger, it's just better to keep farming Yugi. I honestly should have kept a log of how many times I took Yugi's lunch money. That being said, it did take an embarrassing amount of time for me to figure out that I didn't actually have to go around beating every Neo-Ghoul, but we're not going to talk about that. There was one required fight against Seeker. This dude has an Exodia deck, but card draw is super limited in this game, and the maximum hand size is 5, so it's really a non-issue and he went down easily. The storyline now is that I have to go fetch all of our friends to go chase the Neo-Ghouls out of Domino. First up, to get Mako, I had to duel Strings, who you might remember as the weird Slifer mime from the show. I dueled him once for information, reconstructed my deck with a bunch of throwaway lightning and wind monsters to counter his Aqua and Earth-centered deck, and beat him pretty quickly on the 3rd try. Let's go, dude. We are gonna finish this game today, I believe. Oh, to be naive and full of optimism once more. With Mako back in Domino, it was time to hit up Canada for Rex. Loomis and Umbra were the opponents in a double duel, which is literally just the same as a normal duel in this game, you just each duel one of them. This duel was Dream and Light focused, so I had to do a bit of reconstruction after the first try, but on the follow-up I managed to win with the power of Exodia! By which I mean, I played an Exodia piece in defense mode, baited a type advantage kill, tributed it, and then snowballed. Just as Exodia was meant to be played. Off to China to assist Weevil with another double duel. Against Loomis and Umbra, but this time in masks. I honestly believe that the devs just didn't realize that those were the same characters. And here's where we hit a major problem. Our first Divine-type monster. Up until this point, I've been coasting on rebuilding my deck to suit the weaknesses of the opponent's decks. I may have neglected to mention that there is actually another monster type called Divine. I'll let the clip speak for itself. Oh, that's Divine! Oh, fuck! That has no weaknesses. I don't know how we're gonna do this fight. I need Beckons to be able to beat this. Okay. 4,300?! Bro! Yeah, so this is an insane difficulty spike, which is weird, because you can actually do these duels in any order. Oh, also, before the duel ended, we confirmed that he has more than one of those divine bad boys, which probably means he has 3. I realize I haven't shown any clips of just how hard I rebuild my decks for some of these fights, so what better point to slot one in than here? I've got 2 Acid Trap Holes, and I've got 2 Beck into Darknesses. Both of them deal with the Divine Beast. So we have Dream. I mean, this is kind of all over the place. I think I just need to make my deck as strong as possible here, and just hope. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to go through, remove a bunch of the shit, and then rebuild. White Magical Hat seems bad. I didn't see any Fiends in this deck, so we're not going to bother with light types. Versago is a Shadow type, but it is strong, so it deserves a spot in the general go-to deck. My problem now is a lot of my Tribute monsters are weaker than the 4-star monsters that get the Field Power Boost. That's the main problem that I'm running into. You're not good, you're not good, you're not good, you're not good. You can go, you can go, you can go, you can go, no, you can stay, you're good. Alright, we have about 350 capacity to fill out 13 cards. I'm probably going to have to put some shitters in anyway, but I just kind of wanted to see. We saw Forest, so let's put some fire types in. This kills all Fiends. Not the worst card, honestly. He doesn't have Fiends by the looks of it, but hey, it's 15 cost. That's really good. I mean, Forest isn't great either, but I mean, I guess, whatever. We'll do 2... Wait, you're a Fiend. That works. And then we'll do this. Okay. I'm 1 card short. Fuck. No, this is manageable. I'll just take out like a 700 and put in a 600. I can ditch the Lala Lioon in favor of, like... It's a Fiend. That'll do. For fuck's sake. Alright, yeah, then we can put 1 more... I can afford the, I can afford the ninja. Where is he? Arm Ninja. Alright, exact capacity. Let's try again. That's basically the process before every major fight at this point. The rematch went shockingly well though, with the first Divine Mask running into an Acid Trap Hole, one of 2 that I'd picked up just a short while ago to beef up my traps. With the tempo I gained from that, I was able to play Flame Swordsman, buff it with my Hourglass of Life, and snowball from there. This is 100% a fight that could have walled me for an hour if I hadn't gotten so lucky in the retry, but hey, we take those dubs. With Weevil, Rex, and Mako recruited, it was off to recruit Bones. This fight was actually just unreasonably easy. I got my 2700 attack Talons of Shuralane out on turn 2 and just snowballed. Honestly, insane RNG during this portion. The last recruitment was Mai. I had to go up against Arcana for this one, which was fine. His deck is supposed to be centered around Dark Magician, you'd imagine, but for some reason he just has a bunch of Dream and Forest type dudes. The first try went great up until it didn't go great anymore. I scaled really fast, but ran into an unfavorable type matchup right when I was getting his life points low, and then ended up losing. Bear Trap was proving to be completely useless at this point, so I went back to the card shop and picked up a Widespread Ruin, removing the Bear Trap. I did also have to weaken my deck a bit to compensate for the capacity, but it wasn't too detrimental. After losing to Arcana about 5 more times, it became clear that my deck just wasn't good enough. I needed the second Widespread Ruin from Grandpa's shop. The problem, I didn't have the money or the capacity. After 30 minutes of Yugi farming, I emptied my entire deck and rebuilt it from scratch to find some way to fit all of my high-cost traps. First off, I decided to see what my optimal deck's capacity would be. So, these 29 cards would probably be in my optimal deck. That's about 400 capacity without even adjusting for the next 11 cards. Jesus Christ. I would probably need to duel Yugi another 600 times to fit everything that I would want. So that's what I did. Cue the training montage! Nah, I'm kidding. I do not have the patience for that. The important cards of the eventual deck were basically Final Destiny, 2 Dorons, Hourglass of Light, Invisible Wire, 2 Acid Trap Holes, 2 Widespread Ruins, 2 Beck into Darknesses, Talons of Shirlane, a couple of stronger non-tribute monsters, and a whole lot of trash. And after a good hour of preparation, the very next duel he drew nothing but magic cards in his starting hand and I just kind of won. So I really didn't need to go to all that effort at all, which is honestly kind of a feels bad man moment. Feels bad moment or not, that's another section of the game almost completed. Time to return to the best part of the game. Kaiba Man is back, baby! This is just a rematch against Seeker, whose Exodia deck is pretty much as pointless as it was earlier. I did lose once because his attacking monsters are a little bit better, but on attempt 2 I just got Talons of Shirlane out and snowballed from there. This is where the game introduces its most infuriating mechanic of all. Back-to-back duels. I am not going to sacrifice yet. We're just gonna go. Wait, what? This guy has no life points. Okay. In this case, all of the opponents just had 2,000 life points, so it was pretty fine, and poor and naive Pengy had no idea how bad this trend would get. In this case, I was allowed to heal before the boss, Bandit Keith. As is tradition, I lost pretty hard, but realized his deck is just a fiend dump, so I loaded up on light monsters and I just bodied him on the second try. And just like that, Slifer was back to life and my capacity problems were just a little bit easier. You know, after Bandit Keith was literally murdered by Ra. What is happening? Okay. I guess Keith is dead. Oh, and also the Millennium Puzzle broke, and part of it was stolen off the floor by either Para or Dox, who backflipped into the room, grabbed one, and ran. I swear to God I'm not joking, this game is really weird. With that, we're told it's time to go to Pegasus's Island. Except just kidding, the game needs more filler, so instead we have to talk to some blue dude in China. The blue dude, Paradox, tells us to go resurrect Ra. Time to go visit Merrick. There's actually no dueling here, it's just a bunch of running around and exposition, which is honestly a nice change. No duels at all. I definitely didn't accidentally fight Odeon, miss the part where it's optional, grind for 30 minutes to beat him, and then skip the duel entirely when I picked the other text option by mistake. Couldn't possibly be me. Blah, 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 blah. Oh. All I had to do was say yeah. Oh, I don't have to duel him. Oh my god. At the end of the exposition, there is a Merrick duel, but he basically just runs the same deck as Strings did a couple hours ago, so it was pretty easy to deal with first try. Not before the man played 3 Swords of Revealing Light in a row at sub 1,000 life points, though. And then, just to put him in his place, I dueled Odeon into submission with Ra. That's what he gets for wasting my time. Back to China to go talk to Mr. Blue again. This was pain. The super TLDR is that here you have to fight 5 dudes in a row. They only have 3,000 life points, but they have really strong decks, and you're basically trying to luck into a good starting hand 5 times in a row. Unlike the Neo Ghouls, they have completely different types as well, so good luck with counter-teaming them. For about 3.5 hours of this stream, I made massive constant progress. And then I spent 3 hours of the stream on this. And then I ended the stream without finishing this portion. I don't know if I just got terrible RNG or what, but I got through the 5 guys first try on the next stream. Just kidding, it's not 5 guys. It's all 5 guys in a row, and then you get to duel Paradox, who has a full 8,000 life points and an even stronger deck. Luckily for me, I somehow started out with all 3 acid trap holes in the top 6 cards of my deck, so I managed to just snowball out of control, despite the fact that I started the duel with an incredible 1,600 life points. This video has been long, and you can hear sirens in the background, probably because it's a war crime for me to be showing you this footage, but it's finally time for us to go to the final zone, Pegasus's Island. In case you didn't believe me about this game being weird, now it's time for us to fight against the Picklemen. Uh-oh, wait, what the fuck? What is that? Shit looks like a pickle. What? The Chevaliers. What? I'm so confused. Oh god, are we gonna have to fight like 80 dudes in a row again? I really hope not. Hey, guess what? We do have to fight a bunch in a row. 3 this time. Oh, and I'm gonna defend. I'm trying to bait him into playing a second Dream-type monster. Oh ho ho ho! 10k? Why does this thing have 10k life points? What? That seems like bullshit to me. Okay. I really hope this isn't like an enemy rush, because killing a bunch of dudes in a row that have 10k life points is gonna be a lot harder than killing a bunch of dudes in a row that have 3k life points. After a good 40 minutes of attempts, I got through, and I had to fight Panic, who destroyed me. I thought I had a pretty okay matchup into Panic, since his deck is pretty slow and I'm running a pretty setup-heavy style with all those traps mainly buying time for it, but surprise, surprise, I have to go through the 3 dudes before him every time I lose to him. Attempt number 2 is especially sad. He did not draw a monster. He did draw Swords of Revealing Light, but I'm gonna get Slifer, so I don't think I care. Alright, we're just gonna fucking mash through the infinite Slifer text boxes. Oh, he played damage and I died. Oh, that's so sad. That's so sad. Not regenerating life points between duels is so painful at this point, with most enemies running Tremendous Fire, which deals 1,000 damage to you directly. It really stacks up. After a couple of days of not torturing myself, I came back to this part of the game and immediately had a run-reach Panic with 6,400 life points. I started off with an awful hand, but Panic didn't have a single playable monster. And then this happened. We're just gonna go ahead and play Doron. Try to get as much board presence as we can. It's gonna make it a little harder for him to chip our board presence down. This is... oh, wow. Okay, well, we have Slifer. I think we just win. That was unexpected. Panic stalled for a million years by going up to 1,700 life points and throwing down all 3 of his Swords of Revealing Lights, but eventually, his deck had no answer to Slifer, and we claimed victory in the end. Next up, an area simply called Dungeon. This area allows you to pick between 2 paths, but both are effectively the same. A bunch of fights in a row against the dreaded Cucumber Men. I'm not sure if this is intended, but for some reason the second guy here is skippable, so that's nice. As a result, it's only 2 cucumbers, which should make this area a lot easier. The bosses here are Para and Dox, so we went in trying to get some much-needed info. Like this! Okay, playing defensively is good for me. I've got Ra and 2 Dorons. So, like, if I could get Ra... 15,000 life points? Sir? That attempt did not end well, nor did the next few. About a half hour later, I got back to the bosses with a whopping 800 life points. Regardless, I actually got a solid starting hand and managed to trap my way to getting Ra out onto the field. You may have noticed that I'm positioning my traps very deliberately at this point. As it turns out, the trap farthest to the left will always have priority in being activated, so by playing the weaker traps to the left, you can actually ensure that you won't waste a stronger trap on a weaker monster. That's actually a pretty fun little mechanic. Anyways, as you can see, Ra actually clutched out the duel even though I would have been dead to basically any direct damage. And with all of that, we reached Pegasus's castle. It's time for the final showdown. Just kidding, because the game wasn't long enough already, apparently. Paradox, once again, not to be confused with Para and Dox, tells us that we have to go find the spirit cards of all of the duelists we befriended along the way, or something. Basically, the castle halls are a never-ending series of doors that you can't get through without going back and dueling all of the other main story duelists again for the 19th time. So off to Italy we go, where we spanked Bones without much incident. We did end up needing Slifer to clinch it out, but it was relatively smooth sailing. Mai was next, but we drew very well into a lot of our traps and got into a very solid position. We ended up in a bit of an awkward stalemate before getting all sorts of weird. Oh, right, Swords of Revealing Light. Yeah, we're just dead. Okay, maybe not? She played a wind monster. What the fuck is she doing? AI. AI! Well, that's not great. And there's a Pyro Monster. Fuck me. 2,900. Unfortunately, it wasn't really enough in the end. I had a lot of money at this point though, so I headed back to the card shop and picked up a couple of really nice options. Most importantly, Reaper of the Cards, which can remove a trap with its effect and also has a wild 2,500 defense as a single tribute monster as long as it's played on the Yami field. I also lucked into a third Beckon to Darkness, which is both great for tempo and incredibly cheap capacity-wise. On our second Maya attempt, I managed to survive long enough to get Leopard Girl out, which just kind of counters her entire deck since it's all wind monsters. 2 down. I went for Esperoba next, who really put up no fight at all with Leopard Girl coming in clutch once again. Rex was next, but he decided to play a monster and use 2 power-up cards on it on his opening turn when I had Beckon to Darkness in my hand, so that duel went about as easily as you'd expect as well. Mako Tsunami's hand included a grand total of 0 monsters to start off with. He played one on turn 2, powered it up with 2 power-up cards, and immediately ran into a lightning-type monster and died. This time around, though, I just didn't draw into anything I needed, and I died a very slow and very painful death. A couple of attempts later, I did get a triple trap starting hand and was able to bait out 2 of his torrential tributes very early on. With 2 Dorons and Slifer in my hand, I was able to steamroll pretty hard and finally picked up the Mako win. Weevil just turned out to be a really bad duelist, spending his turns using combos like Parasite plus Kill All the Bugs spell card to take out random 1000 attack monsters. I picked up a Torrential Tribute, which in this game doesn't target your own monsters, so it's effectively a trap Raigeki. It's super expensive, but I figured I might be able to throw it in by the time we reach the very end. With all of the spirit cards in hand, it was time to fight everybody again. Or like, their shadow versions or whatever the hell is going on in here. The Bones duel saw us start off with a double trap hand and a safe way to get Dark Chimera out onto the field for a powerhouse 2700 attack monster. The duel was quick and painless, at least for me. Rex was a bit more difficult, but Talons of Shuralain came out and swatted him down. Against Weevil, we had a Pyro type in our starting hand as well as a Doron, so we got a lot of board presence early. Apparently, Weevil forgot how to play the game and just didn't do anything, so I played Ra and just kind of won. Shocking development, Weevil is still a terrible duelist. Mako was the one I was most concerned about, but we started with a widespread Ruin, Doron, a Lightning type, and Slifer in my hand, which is about as good as you could possibly get. I didn't actually get to play Slifer, but our newly acquired Reaper of the Cards made its first appearance and carried us all the way to victory. Finally, we fought Esperoba and died pretty quickly. I wasn't sure if the game was going to force me to duel everybody in a row, so I just tried and entered that duel with very low life points. As it turns out, though, you don't have to do them all in a row, so I walked right back into Esperoba's duel with full HP. I kind of drew nothing for large parts of the duel, though, and died again. Really, though, this one shouldn't be that hard. A lot of Esperoba's monsters are comparatively weak compared to the other duelists around here, so you get a lot more time to get something going. On the third try, Dark Chimera and Reaper of the Cards carried us through. There's one more. I kind of forgot Mai exists. Her deck here is way weaker than the one you fight earlier, though, so with a large amount of traps early on, I picked up a lot of momentum and managed to take her down using almost exclusively non-tribute monsters. You might be wondering when I'm supposed to be getting Obelisk at this point. Well, good news, everyone! It's now! We meet up with Kaiba, who's almost reached Pegasus, but Shadow Mokuba stands in the way. Poor little Kaiba can't duel his kidnapping-prone brother, so we have to do it for him. The duel is actually super difficult. A lot of Mokuba's monsters clock in at like 2080 attack, making Invisible Wire just barely not strong enough and a lot less dangerous than it usually would be. On the second try, we managed to stall him out with traps until Dark Chimera finally took him out. Finally, we get to fight Kaiba for Obelisk. White Magical Hat. This is nice, because I'm getting a bunch of cards that do, like, substantial damage. And just enough trap cards to keep them alive. I actually think we have lethal next turn, probably. Because, like, his deck is super monster-focused. That goes down. He ends his turn, and that was one of the easiest duels of my life. Kaiba. That was pathetic. That was pathetic, Seto. That was the easiest duel I've had in, like, 25 hours of game time. I mean, the first thing we're going to do is add Obelisk to the deck, right? Let's have a look at what it is. Can wipe out all monsters on the field and hit what? Yes! Absolutely. Yes! Yes to Obelisk in my deck. Yes. Very yes. I spent a few minutes reconstructing the deck, removing some of the weaker monsters and adding stronger ones that would also be buffed by Yami, like the Grand Tiki Elder, which becomes a 1950 attack monster without a tribute. But after all of the trials and tribulations, it's finally time. Pegasus. I don't think it's particularly surprising for me to spoil here and let you guys know that this is actually a two-part duel with Pegasus first and Reshef second, but in order to fully understand the pain of this endgame, you'll need to know a few things. First of all, Pegasus has 20,000 life points. Reshef has 40,000. Obviously, that means it takes a century to kill each of them. Meanwhile, they both run 3 copies of Tremendous Fire. We have to assume that they'll have time to draw all of them, which gives us exactly 2,000 life points of wiggle room for these fights. Pegasus's deck is full of mind control. Relinquished and Thousand-Eyed Restrict are especially cool because they're not special monsters. They're just normal dudes that he can play at any time, and he has 3 of each. The upside, I guess, is that Thousand Eyes doesn't have its restrictive ability preventing me from attacking, but instead it buffs whatever monster it takes over by 2 stages, so that's an extra 1,000 attack and defense. He also has 3 Change of Heart cards, 3 Swords of Revealing Light cards. We need the God cards to win, but on top of all of that, for some reason, Ra and Slifer are not immune to the Dragon Capture Jar trap, despite being immune to basically all other effects. Oh, and also, for some reason, power down effects work on the God cards too, so a combination of a power down effect on Obelisk plus Thousand-Eyed Restrict taking over something decent can kill Obelisk or Ra as well. Oh, and also both of these duels ignore restricted rules. For example, I can only put 1 Pot of Greed in my deck. They have 3! There aren't words to describe how brutally bullshit this is. Fiend, be a fiend. Yes! Toon Summon Skull. 20,000 life points. Good sir, I believe this is cheating. Despite all of the ways Pegasus is cheating, I managed to get Obelisk out on our first attempt, and somehow managed to snowball to a victory, pitting us against Reshef for the first time. I have 4,000 life points, he has 40! Okay then. I picked up a pretty good starting hand, but just kind of died to a turn 2 Change of Heart, completely negating my board control. Oh, and also this. 2,600 on your non-tribute monster. Good sir. So anyway, this is how the rest of the stream went. Nope. Ah. Okay, this is such a hard duel, even without the Reshef part. Jesus. Oh, good. Wait, you don't need to tribute for the Thousand Eyes Restrict? I thought it was like you needed to sacrifice Relinquished for it or something. Jesus. I'm too low on life points to play defensive. Wait, what? I'm so confused. I got a Thousand Eyes Idol, or like a Thousand Eye Summoner thingy, as a reward card, and it said this card is needed to summon Relinquished. But he just played Relinquished without it. So is that just a lie? Yeah, we're not even gonna bother. We're not gonna win this one, we're just gonna speed this up. We've gone through almost half the deck without a God card. I could really use a God card right now. Hey, look, a God card. Wait, what? That works on Slifer? Oh my god. Alright, it's time for Reshef, attempt number 3. I've heard tell that the 3rd try is in fact the charm. So, pray for me, friends. Please, we're on the final boss. I can't end the stream until we beat the final boss. Because you know what's gonna happen if I do. I'm just gonna start stream next time and we're gonna get it first try. Nope. He gets the best card in his deck right after Final Destiny. Okay. Relinquished. It's even a blue monster! Why do they even have Dark Illusion Ritual as a card? It is a card in this game. This is like, we've already been like in this situation for most of the game where we just have to like hope that we draw our trap cards. The problem is now the game has changed. It's no longer about drawing the trap cards. It's about drawing the trap cards and also hoping that they don't get Harpy's Feather Duster. Please play a tribute. Oh, there's Harpy's Feather Duster. I guess we're dead. The problem is, his deck is so unreasonably better than mine that there is nothing I can do to grind up to be able to fight this guy. It will legitimately be faster, even if it takes 100 attempts. It will be faster to grind attempts instead of try to improve my deck. It will be significantly faster. Neat! Neat! Oh, I'm having so much fun! Yay! I love video games. Oh, God. Oh, God. About 2 hours into this hell, I realized that none of my viewers were familiar with the super weird music album that was released ages ago called Music to Duel By. I don't want to play the music here in case copyright things happen, but I have to implore you to please go listen to it. It has some of the most hilarious lyrics I have ever heard in my life. My personal favorite is probably the line, "Summon the dragon, blue eyes white, send in the swords of revealing light." There's also a weird ballad duet between Taya and I think Tristan, which might be the worst thing I've ever heard. Seriously, this album might be the most masterful troll ever conceived. Anyway, I spent a good 5 hours attempting this duel. I did not win. Eventually, I was forced to give up for the night. Nope, GG. Wow, that was anticlimactic. Change of heart, sacrifice, King of Yamamakai. Too strong for my traps. Oh, God. Alright. Well, we're definitely gonna call it there. We'll be back at some point with more Rechef when my brain is not much anymore. But tomorrow we have a Pokemon XD run, so that'll be fun. The longer we sat in this hellscape of a duel, the more it became clear that the exclusive win condition was God cards. Chad and I started theorizing about ways we could rebuild the deck to improve our chances. About 30 minutes into the next stream, I decided to do a pretty big rebuild. I kept my Mega Traps plan, adding in a Torrential Tribute. I added a Pot of Greed, and maybe the biggest card, Multiply. Multiply fills my board with Karibo if I have one on the board already, making it a great way to guarantee playing a God card in certain circumstances. Unfortunately, the card shop only had one copy though. I put Heavy Storm in as well for a board clear, especially nice since my God cards ignore it, and a Harpy's Feather Duster of my own. A second Talons of Shuralane replaced Leopard Girl. I rounded out the deck with the cheapest monsters I had, focused mostly on Dream, Fiend, and Light-type monsters for the type advantages. The strategy worked immediately, taking down Pegasus on the first try. Rechef started amazing as well. I got incredible board presence up and just needed a God card to clinch it out. Unfortunately, I never drew into one and failed again. At this point, I was playing the game at 6 times speed to try to get through these attempts faster. I played for 4 hours. I did not win. At this point, I was up to about 30 hours of in-game time exclusively on Pegasus and Rechef attempts. I would like to remind all of you at this point that this was a video game intended for children to play. If boomers want to blame video games for violent kids, I am 100% sure that this game did more mental damage to its player base than GTA ever could. Going into the 3rd stream of Rechef attempts, I was mentally defeated, running on autopilot. But then, just when all hope seemed to be lost, I got an early Raw on Pegasus. It snowballed quickly, and I took 0 damage. Alright. Interesting starting hand, but I don't have any God cards, so this might not go very well. Might as well do that. Baiting a Harpy's Feather Duster. I need a God card. Any God card will do. Oh, he's out of cards. Or he's out of monsters. He gets a Zombyra. That'll go down to the to this thing though. Actually, you know what? I'll toggle slow for just for Rechef. I'll toggle it for Rechef. Oh, okay, Pot of Greed. Alright, please give me a God card. Okay, is it... Wait, is it time? Is it time? Does he have Dragon Capture Jar? No. Okay, believe. 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 No, dude, he drew into all 3? What is it? He also has Slifer. How strong is his? Mine is stronger. He doesn't have a boost. Okay, no, we can get rid of his Slifer, actually. I think Swords is gone now, right? Obelisk is giving Slifer power. I think I should be fine because the one he played was Slifer. If I can remove Slifer, then he doesn't have a way of dealing with my Slifer except for Dragon Capture Jar. I need to draw into Heavy Storm. There's his last Pot of Greed. I might be able to mill him, actually, if he does get Dragon Capture Jar. Because Obelisk and Ra cannot kill my Slifer. Down goes God card number 1. Got him, boys. I think we got this. How many cards does he have? 13 cards. I only have 16 left, which means that he could top deck Dragon Capture Jar, but I have 2 answers to it. I have Heavy Storm, and I have Final Destiny. And both of them will leave Slifer alive while clearing the rest of the board. Alright, the way the AI functions, it should attack this, leaving himself open to dying. I don't think he has a monster. Tremendous Fire. This is why it's so important to come in with good HP, or good life points. If you let Pegasus do too much damage, you're just gonna die to a Tremendous Fire. Oh my god, it's over. Oh my god, it's over. It's over! It's over, right? Please tell me it's over. No! No. What the fuck is this? No! I'm not celebrating because I'm 99% sure it's over. But I know this game. I know that somewhere there was a dev trying to get one more fight in. And I don't think that they let it through, but I'm not sure. Just please be over. Just please be over. Oh, he summoned the dragon, Blue Eyes White. I wonder if he sent in the Swords of Revealing Light. Oh, I'm pretty sure this is just the ending montage now. After a good 10-minute ending montage, it was finally over. If you've stuck with this insanely long video all the way, I really hope you enjoyed watching me suffer. And if you take one thing away from this video, please, dear God, I hope it's don't play this game. I suffered so you didn't have to. This game still has its bright points for me. And my chat made it a fun experience even in the worst of times, so they deserve as much credit as I do for keeping me going. Rechef is a cluttered, weirdly paced, padded to the gills with unnecessary bullshit game, but I really did have a good time playing through it. And in a weird way, despite beating a 15-year-old card game made for babies, I'm very proud of pushing through the pain and coming out on top. If you did enjoy the video, I'll be doing more YouTube content this year, so hit that subscribe button to see more, and please consider checking out the stream linked in the description below. Twitch is my primary avenue of content creation, so I would love to see some of you there. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all next time.